Hi there, Jan from Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, the Loft Warehouse, here with another one of my monthly market updates coming at you. Today, we are going to talk about interest rates, buyer demand, the local take on days on market, inventory levels, how the housing market has performed from a value standpoint over the last year, and predictions for next year. And we will finish up with a little housing sentiment. So let's start right into interest rates. I'm recording this on December 13th. The Fed just met at 2:30, and they've decided to keep their fund rate the same. And based on the statements it has put out, the people who interpret such things are stating that the Fed is planning to do some rate reductions in 2024, potentially up to 3 rate reductions, and definitely no rate increases. So that is some great news. That is definitely going to free up some inventory in the market. A lot of sellers who don't want to put their houses on the market because they don't want to buy a house with a 7% interest rate. So hopefully that will free up some inventory and also cause more buyers to come back into the market. So let's talk about buyer demand. Showing Time, which is an application that helps realtors schedule showings on their properties, obviously has access to a huge amount of data in the US. So here is a graph. This is based on their Showing Time index. This is like a proprietary index number. This is how they represent the amount of buyers that are looking at properties and how it compares to previous years. So kind of ignore the number because the way they explain it, I don't even know what it means. But as you can see, the amount of buyers out there looking at houses right now is up from before the pandemic. You know, it's kind of hard. We removed the pandemic years because we consider them unicorn years because the market behaved so differently than it has ever. So pre-pandemic years, way more buyers out there looking for housing now. The numbers might be a little skewed because I think buyers are looking at more houses now than maybe they did in 2019 because they really want to take their time, make sure that they're buying the best house for them. But it certainly, I think, does indicate there's a lot more buyer activity out there. So let's move over to this next slide, which I think really says it best. This came from Zillow's market report from November, in which they said attractive, appropriately priced listings are moving quickly. And that is for sure. So if you have a house on the market and it looks good, it shows well, and it's priced right, it will sell quickly. So this is based on our local Michigan MLS data. Take this graph here. This is the amount of showings it takes to get to a sale. So it takes about 14 showings right now on average to get to a pending sale, which is the exact same as last year. However, days on market is down from last year. So last year, November, average of 36 days on market per property. Now we're down to 31 for the month of November. I don't have December's data yet. I won't have that until the end of December. And you can see that in this graph here that shows the days on market over the past 5 years. So I think what that's saying, even though we have the same amount of showings, is that buyers are now looking at things more quickly than they were last year. And that makes a lot of sense because even though interest rates were about the same, maybe even a little bit lower the same time last year, if you remember in November of 2022, the market was still in shock about the interest rates because it was the first time that they had been at that number and people just weren't sure what to do. Now we've had a year to kind of marinate with 6-7%. It feels a lot more comfortable because it's not changing. So there's more people out there looking at houses faster and causing the days on market to go down. Now I want to talk about inventory. Some really interesting things happening on the inventory front. So let's bring up this graph, which is a national graph. It shows layered every single year, layered on top of the next. So you can see the seasonality of the numbers. You know, we've talked about this many times. The amount of listings go up, peak in June, and sort of bottom out in January. So you can see that black line there. That is kind of like how the listings are behaving nationally. And then that dotted line, that dashed line, is actually how listing data should be performing if it followed the same trends as previous years where it really dropped off. It's not dropping off as much. So that means that more people are putting their houses on the market to keep up with buyer demand. So that's a good thing that will hopefully cause this steep appreciation to taper off. And that's going to help with housing affordability. Locally, I want to give you that take on the new listings, the amount of inventory in the market, since we just went over a national slide. So locally, the trends are exhibiting the same behavior. Between October and November last year, there were 5,000 fewer houses on the market from October to November of 2022. This year, from October to November, just the past couple months ago, there are only 1,000 fewer houses on the market from October to November. So that means that there are just simply more houses on the market, more houses that have come to market. Yes, even though, and probably about the same amount of sales that we had last year around this time, October and November. So we're definitely moving in the direction of having more inventory. And this is only going to be able to help with affordability when there's not as much of demand for housing because inventory levels are low. This graph right here is showing how home values have performed every month since January through September. That's the last data. As you can see, we have 3 different providers of this data, so they all are calculating things a little bit differently. CoreLogic seems to be the most favorable earlier in the year. They're mostly showing either no change in value or depreciation in January, and then very modest appreciation throughout the year. Gone now are the days of the, 5% a month that we had in the unicorn years. So it's a good thing. Very modest increases. That is, again, only going to help with affordability from where we are because we're not having those really steep appreciation of home values that we were having. So just a little bit of a comparison to the local graphic. So price change over time. Average home value last November in my MLS was $275,000. Now compare that to $288,000 this November. So last month we were at $298,000. So we're going from last year, November 275 to this November 288,000 average sale price. Compare that to last month, 298 to 288. So we're seeing seasonal changes. I've talked about this before. Home values peak in, May, June, and bottom out in January. So it is normal that the median and average sale prices are going to go up and down. It is normal that they were $298 last month, and now the average price is $288. But we're still, $13,000 higher on average than we were 1 year ago today. So we're still performing better than last year, although very normal changes to valuations. So last couple things I wanted to talk about, home price forecasts for 2024. So this is interesting, kind of a lot of different opinions on this. The Mortgage Bankers Association being the most favorable on the numbers, all the way down to the most conservative, Realtor.com, which is predicting depreciation. There's a lot of very high paid economists that crunch these numbers all day for these various real estate organizations and mortgage banking and builders organizations. And, they have to revise their numbers over and over again and have every time they have to do something like this because the market, I think, always outperforms what they think. But I think the takeaway here is even at 1.7% depreciation by the end of the year, none of that equals a market crash in any capacity, which is really interesting because 1 out of 4 Americans still think that the real estate market is going to crash. Are you one of those people? Are you one of the 4? You got to ask yourself. So thank you so much for watching. I really love bringing these videos to you every month. If you are getting value out of them, you have any questions, or you just in general want to shoot me a line and say hello, please do so. Respond to the email that you received this in, or if you're watching it on YouTube, go ahead and send me a message. You can also email me at jan@theloftwarehouse.com. Thanks for watching. Hope you're having a good holiday season and have a wonderful day.